how committed I am towards the thing. So the level of commitment is, I would say, the key determinant. And of course, there's also you could add. I don't know whether that's probably emotional intelligence. I think that's a big thing these days, uh, and probably has been mentioned quite a lot without proper understanding.
Welcome back, everyone, to Business Savages. Today, I have a special guest whom I call the most empathetic product coach that I've met in my entire founder's journey. And I'm going to let him introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Karlis, and as you shared, like I wouldn't say I'm the most empathetic product coach, but
That I've
I
met.
usually maybe, but I would definitely share that. Yeah, I'm a startup coach and a facilitator, and I think those two words explicitly share what I do. So when the coaching comes in, it's mostly about facilitating the goal setting and goal achieving for teams and facilitating their growth individually with either solo founders or teams that I work with, and the facilitation comes in that um, I do different kinds of facilitated sessions to help teams achieve their product market fit, and that involves a lot of workshops around that lead to experimentation. And a quite common theme that probably listeners will be aware of is design sprint methodology, and that's something we really focus on in sort of Wise Guys and also in Founders Club.
Thank you. Well, I feel like now I have to justify that whole introduction about empathetic coach. So for me, there are two sides to it. It's the way that you approached us during the cohort in this more so empathetic way compared to, for example, other startup accelerators or startup facilitators that I've worked with. And then what I think was very different, it was your approach to the users, like how you really taught us that we need to put them like front and center and have the empathy for them to understand whether or not we're building the right product. Because I think a lot of times what happens is that when you join this accelerator, they're just pushing you to get to the product part. And so many times like the users get overlooked that you just end up with the thing that nobody wants.
That's like I don't know about the other accelerators, but that's um, obviously like there are many activities in the startup world that really puts your focus on the product, and I think quite common method or format is hackathons, where
Right.
the goal is to either in 24 hours, 48, to develop something working. And I've also been a part of them as a participant, and my question has been, okay, what do we want to achieve with this? And that's really a big question. And all know, like all people who are building, either participating in hackathons, I believe like their one of the motivations should be building a business. And since I'm not the product guy. I'm not the like in the sense that I'm not a tech guy. Maybe that would be
Right.
a better phrasing. And I'm also not a designer. So although I have had experience being a user experience consultant designer, but that's definitely not my main thing. But what I have also observed working with clients in the past, that there's also this kind of urge to build this thing and only showcase the final result, because like the first impression lasts, right? Usually that's the
Right.
saying.
Mhm.
Though I really I'm an advocate of the approach that, hey, what is the minimum thing we can do to get the earliest possible feedback from the users? What are the simplest experiments that we can run to understand if you're going in the right direction, and that results in saving resources, saving time,
Right.
and yeah, and that's something that I've going back to this question and point of hackathons is that you build this thing. What is what the, what is the commitment to continue the work? What is the commitment to validate the idea, to test it? I would say that's also one of the core principles that I try to bring with me when I'm working with teams, either startup teams or teams in a corporate world, or even also in my own life. Is okay, experiments. What is
Right.
the minimum thing I could do to test out my assumptions?
Right. So obviously throughout your experience, you've seen some teams that have succeeded and some teams that have failed. How difficult is it to deliver the feedback where you see that, okay, they're definitely not going in the right direction and this is just not happening? Like, how do you usually approach that?
Okay, my approach as a coach, like there's also, we have to distinguish between a coach and a mentor. Mentor is someone who, like you just mentioned, like shares this, like goes for feedback and shares a critical point, critical observation. Because a mentor is usually a person that has had a significant experience in the field where you're working, for example, startups.
Right.
For me, I don't have significant experience working as a startup founder, but what I bring to the table is the coaching approach. And in the at the core of the coaching approach is that I, as a coach, give you full responsibility of your work, and also with I don't know, my presence, questions, or the way I listen. I try and raise your awareness about these questions. Or in some cases, if you agree, I would also share one or two ideas. But all in all, you are the one that take responsibility of the end result. And when it comes to the question of that you asked about startup going in the wrong direction, um, it's a matter of me asking the right questions that raise
Right.
your own awareness about whether you're going in the right direction, or perhaps that there might be a challenge or two, such as running a simple round of user tests. Not like saying a judgment, but like throwing out idea that what you could do to understand if you're going in the right direction. Because at the end, yeah, you are the master of your own fate and ship. So that's my approach, the coaching approach, working on raising the awareness, and then giving you the responsibility to make the decision whether you're going in the right direction or not.
When it comes to those questions, are there like typical questions that you ask to establish, like help them realize that this is not working, or is it like just really a one-on-one basis?
Mm. What do you mean by one-on-one basis?
Like, say maybe there is a question that says something like, okay, so have you, what kind of feedback have you gotten from your users? And maybe if the answer is like, oh, we don't have any feedback, or the only feedback that we got is like, yeah, this app looks nice, or something like this, that makes them realize that they're like probably have not made any significant progress. Because I think it's like not moving in the right direction is also a vague phrase, right? So for me, I think my biggest problem throughout this entire journey, quote unquote, has been the fact that I felt like I was doing a lot of busy work, but at some point I just felt like I was not progressing. So I just like kept circling around the same thing, but I wasn't moving forward. And I remember, oh, funny enough, I remember you asked me, basically you were like, so did you figure out what are gonna be like your couple of main features in the MVP? And I was like, no, because I've been thinking about like what I'm gonna do 6 months from now, like for the full product. So I didn't nail that down, and so I had to go back to the user interviews, try to fish it out, and then even speak to a few people again, and then finally I was like, this is it. But this was the question that you asked
Okay.
me that helped me realize that I was just stuck. I felt like I was, doing busy work, but I was not
Yeah.
actually making any progress.
Okay, I understood. So, like, then getting back to that first question
Hmm.
that you asked, what are there like general questions that might make you think
Hmm.
about whether I'm going in the right direction, and then whether it's more that I perform on one-on-one basis, meaning formulating questions depending on the case. Yeah,
Right.
that
Hmm.
was okay. I understood. I would say it's both. Like there are like general themes we have to validate about the direction that we all follow. I follow. I'm a big fan of the strategizer series books, like they have the business model canvas, the value proposition, testing business ideas. Those are maybe the ones most related towards this idea validation part, and those are concepts we can all use. And what I really love about those maps is that you get to summarize your core assumptions about your business in a structured way. That's number one. And it also provides you a map of your assumptions that you need to validate. So you have put out all your thoughts about how your idea should work, and you can pick one by one and perform different experiments that can make that assumption into fact, and confirm the reality that you are facing with your business. And and then it comes down to the big questions about, okay, about the business model, how it looks, what are the core ideas behind there, starting with the value proposition, what are, let's say, three core pain points I'm solving for my customers or potential customers, what are their main obstacles. So these are like big questions that help me like understand, okay, at least understand my assumptions about the case, and then I can measure how confident I am about that fact, about pain point or obstacle being a reality. And then based on that analysis, I can conclude which are the points I need to focus on. And
Right.
and based on that, I can create the best, like the most appropriate experiment. The simplest experiment is a customer interview. So I wouldn't even call it an interview, conversation.
Conversation,
That's
yeah.
something that comes from the Mom's Test, the book, where the author introduces like conversations seems like no, like interview seems like a bit formal, and when you ask someone you don't know to commit for an interview,
Right.
might be challenging, and especially
Hmm.
with the B2B context, it's quite challenging to get the participants for the interviews, and that's been something that all the cohort members have been sharing since we started working at Founders Club as well. So conversations, and then it's a bit more informal. Still, so that's like one spectrum of the experiment, simple conversations, and the other is already where we perhaps might do a quick landing page that summarizes the pain points we would be solving with our solution. Then we can showcase that landing page in yet another round of conversations, or
Right.
doing a social media traffic to the site and see whether people go through, and then we can also go into qualitative data analysis, but that's not something I'm a really big expert of. I'm more towards understanding those why questions. And then there's this, so those maybe that was an example of what are the general knowledge of where we can get those questions to think about whether we're going in the right direction. Then there's this one-on-one part that you also shared in your example. Of course, like when we start exploring the reality you are in, and I'm more prepared to do a nice and open-ended follow-up that can, or even a closed and like closed question follow-up, as you mentioned in your example, to shift your perspective and make you realize, oh, there's like another part I have to think about.
Right. I- In your experience, I would say statistically, when the teams go through this structured process and they don't miss any steps in terms of, like you said, the business canvas. I forgot the one with the circle. What is it called? Is there like a
One with
specific
this,
name for it?
one with the circle.
You know when you have their like pains, gains.
Oh yeah, that's the value proposition canvas.
Okay, value proposition canvas. So if the teams like complete this 100% versus the teams who like skipped multiple parts of it, in your experience, is there like a statistic that says those who didn't skip the steps, they actually like were able to progress faster, or is it like purely a matter of a chance?
Um, I would say like that. Probably at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. What matters is whether I have shipped something quickly to my customers, or
Mm-hmm.
my ideal customer profile, or at least people that some plus minus fits that. I think it's like what value proposition canvas or any other framework. What it helps you, it helps, or how it helps me is as a user of them is structuring myself and structuring my ideas. For some, maybe Mac, you don't need that. Like I'm just gonna straight go and try and sketch out my idea and on a napkin and just go to people and sitting in a cafe. Like if my or if you're in B2B setting and my target audience are restaurant owners, like napkin sketch, I'm going to
Right.
restaurant owners and doing it. Yeah, the straightforward way. But for most of us, I think it's really also for myself. It's important for me to structure my thinking before I go out and work with people, engage people, and therefore those frameworks really support me and also support other teams I have worked with. At least that's my observation. But that's definitely not the criteria that you're going to be more successful. I think it comes down to whether you are committed to the idea and you are willing to experiment in many iterations.
Basically, to put yourself out there, which I
Yeah.
think a lot of people struggle with. Yeah. So, again, in your experience, do you feel like the mindset and I guess like attitude that you have to the whole idea of trying like an entrepreneur wannabe, let's put it this way, how big of a role does it play in being able to get to certain results?
Mm. Entrepreneurial mindset is how would you define entrepreneurial mindset?
It's basically what you just described, like just putting something out there
Yeah.
and putting yourself out there and just like being willing to, get the
Okay.
feedback and keep going until you finally get the results. Even though like you'll probably get a lot of bad feedback, you'll hear that this sucks, you're stupid, blah blah.
Yeah.
I mean, not directly in these words, but you see what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I got you because when it's quite interesting that in this world we all call so many like we call the same thing in so many different ways because one
Yes.
like what is the essentially what is this getting out of the building about? It's about experimentation. That's a principle of experimentation, and actually it's quite common in many methodologies and or mindsets. One of them is this design mindset or design thinking approach, where, at least in my interpretation, also experimentation is at the core, and also the way how I view the world and those different methodologies. That like there are these different things like so. There's customer development, lean startup that kind of go together with it. You have also business design or business model design. That's an approach that is presented by Strategizer and many others. And then there are the design disciplines of service design or user experience design. But I would say like they share the core principles all together. And I think the most important one of them that I kind of spotlight in each of those approaches that I just listed is experimentation and I think all in all, it comes down to how we go about exploring new ideas, and the best way to do that is through experimentation. And yeah, I don't have anything to add, and that like that goes beyond business. It's life, it's relationships.
Right.
So getting my opinion out there and seeing what is the reaction, whether that fits the reality, whether my reality fits your reality, and we can only know that by putting it out there. Either our ideas when we're talking you and me, or when we are engaging our partners or customers. Yeah.
Right. Right. Is there like a certain personality trait or type that you see in founders or founding teams where you can just like say, okay, this is going to be hard for them, or wow, this is like they're probably not going to make it?
Personality trait. I don't know. But that's I think one of the main things. If we kind of link it back to what we just talked about experimentation, what enables experimentation is our commitment. What is my commitment to this idea or the team I work with, or what is my commitment towards the program I'm currently in? And I think that's yet again a big question that each of us needs to answer. Like, what is the commitment I'm willing to dedicate to um, uh, putting this idea out, or being there in the program? And my observation, of course, is that the more you're willing to put in, that is time and energy in the program. Obviously, you are bound to take out more. That goes without saying, and I think probably for listeners, this sounds obvious, because that's again a rule that applies, and again everywhere we go. Relationships, again, it's about commitment. How committed I am there, or also if I'm a employee, or even when I'm planning to, I don't know, learn a new subject, how committed I am towards the thing. So the level of commitment is, I would say, the key determinant. And of course, there's also you could add. I don't know whether that's probably emotional intelligence. I think that's a big thing these days, um, and probably has, has been mentioned quite a lot without proper understanding. But how I look at it is how, like, there are like those two components. However am I about myself, like my
Hmm.
emotional state, and however I am about the emotional state of others, and how I can bridge that communication between myself and the others. And I think that's also a core criteria. So one is commitment, that I'm committed to building the thing, especially if I'm a solo founder, because then I'm working solo and you don't
Right,
have
right.
to
Hmm.
engage. But challenges start when we have to engage other people who might be completely different personalities, and with a different way of thinking, and that's also a challenge that happens in the Founders Club, that we try to match these people and provide them with structure and experience so that they can build out and test their ideas. That's the purpose of the program, I would say, from my perspective. And this relationship element, that's something you have to figure out on by yourselves, and for some teams that's been challenging, and obviously, like, not all teams that form finish the program.
Right.
So two things: commitment, and some sort of emotional intelligence here. But again, I think that's really, really, really general and applies to many things.
My personal formula, I think I've talked about it in one of the previous episodes. I called three C's. So one of them is commitment, what you just precisely described, consistency, which you also described in the previous question, just keep going. You just gotta keep
Hmm.
going. And community has
Yeah.
become like the very, very vital point for me, because I've mostly been working on all of my side quests, let's put it this way, and also a phrase from previous episode from another guest, by myself. And
Right.
even if I was committed and consistent at some point, I just like internal motivation was not enough. I had to
Yeah.
find support elsewhere, because otherwise I just felt like I was stuck in my own head. I wasn't sure was objective was subjective anymore. So that's why also I think being part of the Founders Club has really helped me in terms of just being like accountable.
Hmm.
It's not always just like having people cheer you up. Like, I don't need that, but I think this like external accountability has definitely helped me a lot.
Oh yeah. I agree, from both my personal experience, because I'm also like working as a, I don't know whether I was actually today thinking whether self-employed person is also solopreneur, but I'm just going to go with self-employed, and it can get lonely, and especially for
Yeah.
solo founders, and therefore it's really important to either, yeah, try and found team, but if it's not an option for me, at least for now, then it's a question of yeah, finding the community or communities
Right.
with whom I can continue the work. And definitely I agree with the Founders Club that throughout these sessions it provides a sense that you have these other people, and you have and you can engage them and get their take on ideas, or just have a nice chat.
Right. Exactly. Um, I want to kind of like develop more on this whole like solo founder thing, because what I've heard, not just from the Founders Club, but from a lot of other startups and investors, is that investors very rarely invest into solo founders. In your experience, is that the case, and why do you think that is?
Hmm. To be honest, I don't have an answer to this question. But what I have heard overall is that, and I think that's again general thing. What our commitment to ideas, that's a phenomenon. Like we think our ideas is the main like it's the winner, and I think the reality, and also if we observe the change of ideas, or the side quests of, or the things that we are
Mhm.
doing over a year or 2 years or even 5 years. Like I look 5 years ago to the person I was and the things I was involved in. Like it's completely different reality today, and what matters is like how prepared I am to go and explore other ideas. And obviously, like in a team setup, you are better prepared to do that, to switch, because you have this the support, and you have the talent, and ideally you have the synergy. I think, like if I was an investor, then I wouldn't be looking at teams with like more and more people. I think that's probably a question that is on their heads, is what is the synergy between the people that are in the team, because although you might have two, three, four people in the team, but the output can be the one of 6 or 7 people. So I think that's where the team power comes in, and that's kind of also
Right.
goes back to the organizational psychology, and how we work in teams. Like we are all social animals, right? So that's where the magic happens.
I feel like there is so much controversy when it comes to this whole. I guess like I'll focus on the commitment part, because I've heard completely like different angles about it, and I think there are like two very distinct angles. So one angle is when there is a camp, that's a camp of people that says, oh, you just gotta like be really passionate about it, and you gotta believe in it, and eventually like it will happen, like it will start making money. But then there is another camp of people that says, no, you just gotta like follow the money, quote unquote, as in like you gotta see the real problem, and whether you like it or believe into it, it's like it's a recipe for success. Are you in either of those camps, or maybe you're in the middle? Like, what's your take on that?
So money versus passion. That's essentially the question.
Yeah.
Um, I would probably find another angle there, and that is talent. Whether I'm able to
Mm.
express myself and express the best of my talents here,
Mhm.
because like passions, ideas, challenges, they change. Money, well, you cannot buy happiness with money, and there's a certain limit where which you reach, where money doesn't make you more and more happy. Uh, I think what is, and that also kind of connects with the Maslow pyramid, this self-actualization part, and that really comes down to whether I can like express the best of my talents in the particular field I'm working in, and I think for great entrepreneurs, I think that they're just doing the thing because of the thing they're like because of the thing, and also that's something I've recognized in my journey, that I really enjoy working with teams, coaching, facilitating sections, and engaging people, and working with teams. So I'm trying to realize my talents, and I would probably disassociate them from passions, because but with passion you might sometimes even get blinded, and also with money
Right.
things.
Right.
Um, but yeah, asking myself a question: what is the best way how to express myself, and is this the best way I'm expressing myself? Would be that would be the question I would ask. So I'm camp talent.
All right, fair enough. Connected to that, I sometimes ask the question, what type or archetype of an entrepreneur do you associate yourself with, if any? I usually use three examples. So we've got Oprah, who is like, came from very challenging background, made it happen for herself, and then like tried to, bring it to the masses. Then I have Elon, which is basically, big crazy ideas, we're gonna take it to the Mars. And Jeff, who is like the guy just like that just kept going, and from his garage to now a
Yeah.
multi-billion-dollar business. Do you resonate, does either of them resonate with you, or maybe you have somebody else in mind?
Actually, that's a question I haven't thought about. These three, I think I resonate with Oprah, and maybe not that much of like the backstory, but her engagement with people and kind of following that. I think that strongly resonates with me. Yeah. Other archetypes. I think that's a question. That's a good question. I might need to think about because I've looked into this question. Okay, what is my role model,
Mm-hmm.
and and there's no clear answer. Like there are many inspirations, Like there are so many I can take from uh, every person I engage with, and so do from you. Like the way how you're working, it really shows me that like everything is possible. Like you're a mom, you're a podcast host. I think you concluded the work as the growth or like at the startup, or you're still there.
Oh, I'm still there full
Oh, you're
time.
still there. Okay. Yeah, because I think couldn't understand from LinkedIn last time I checked, and then you were working on your own idea with Aurora and
On the side quest.
on the side quest, and that's epic. Like that really like gives me an inspiration that like there's so much I can do even more. Like there are people who are doing these things, and um, yeah. So I'm trying to look for inspiration in every person I meet, one way or another.
Oh, that's beautiful. I think that's a good way of like looking at the world. Speaking of working with people and all that, what's been the most rewarding and challenging aspects of working with a lot of different startup founders and teams?
I, I think like the most rewarding one. That's easy. Like what really drives me is the success of other people, and if I've managed to add my 2 cents there, and that has helped them to achieve that success, that's just great. I'm super happy. Like my happiest moments, especially from running these validation sprints, as I said before, like these aha moments. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just feeding on them.
Right.
And the challenging part, the challenging part, and that's something I'm really trying to let go, is like I have my version of like like this, for example, design sprint methodology. Like it has a sort of like a set of steps to follow through. And what was quite challenging for me, and what is less challenging now, is to just accept that some teams just don't need all the steps, and it's fine that teams do their own thing, and all teams don't need to arrive at the same form of the prototype. Not to mention that all teams should participate in the process, because we at the Founders Club and also sort of Wise Guys Accelerators, we're running these sprints for cohorts of 8 to 12 teams, 6 or 5 to 12 teams. So many teams at the same time. But how can all the teams have the same or similar challenge to solve with the design sprint approach? And that was something, it was at the beginning a bit harder for me to get over. But as I've kind of, I would say, reintroduced more and more of this coaching approach, and in a way, I work with teams that allows for personalization. I kind of have put prioritized the goal of the team. So, what is it that you want to achieve over the next 3 weeks? How will you know that you have achieved this? Why is this important for you? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
that as a result, although some teams haven't gone the full like this design sprint process as it was in your case, so you were in a position
Right.
where you had the prototype ready and in Figma, you just needed a real you need a research sprint to conduct user tests with potential users. So and that was your thing, and understanding what is the need of each startup and trying to accommodate them. That's challenging even now, but it was more challenging when I was really attached to the idea that we all should be going through the same process, but we are all so different, and there is no one size fits all. That's just the reality.
Wow, that's interesting. Made me think of my one of my like mom moments. So what I find, and I would like you to basically see if there is, do you think there is like a line between you momming startups? I don't even know if that's the right phrase. Daddying startups. Um, so when I see my daughter doing something like, for example, putting together a puzzle or something else, I just have this like, urge to be like, oh, but this one, like, take this one. And then I have to like, stop myself, be like, no, let her do it. Like, she's got to learn it her own way. Like, even if she makes a mistake, sometimes I see that she's about to like screw something up.
Mhm.
And like, as much as I want to be like, no, 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 like this, because it'll break it. I'm like, she needs to break it. This is the
Mhm.
only way she'll learn it. Like, do you feel like there is, do you feel like you go through kind of the same process with the startups?
She needs to break it. She needs to break it, and like from the coaching approach, I obviously like since like I haven't been like an entrepreneur and startup founder since. But what I've but over the past years I have worked with quite many teams, and there are things we can learn from especially other startup teams. And what is my approach in these situations is um, instead of like explicitly saying that thing, well, hey, you're doing this wrong. Like, who am I to say that you're doing this wrong? Or completely abstaining, because that's not an option as well, because that's just a kind of ignorance, I would say. I have to raise this issue, and first of all, it is by asking your permission. Hey, I kind of sense an obstacle here for you. Can I share this with you? And then you take responsibility for hearing it out. And I'm because you have because I have your interest.
Right,
Because if you
right.
don't care,
Hmm.
why should
Hmm.
I even share that? That's
Right.
thing number one. Can I share my observation with you? That would be a way how I try to approach this, and then instead of saying, "Hey, if you do this, you'll screw up," try to present that as an observation. Hey, I noticed that you did this and this thing. What are the implications of that? Or kind of again about raising your awareness about the issue, but not necessarily saying this is the issue, because you have to acknowledge it yourself. At least that's the approach I'm trying to take.
And I think, at least for me, it has been like truly different compared to others, because sometimes I would just like get this feedback like straight into my face. And
Mm,
because of that, I'm like, then like sometimes I just shut down. I'm like,
yeah,
it looks like I'm listening to you, but in reality, like I have a monkey in my head doing bang, bang. And I'm just like, nope,
yeah,
I'm not ready for this, you know?
yeah. We're all, like that's the, the 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 real. We're all the same. We're all humans. We all have emotions, and we all are wired in a similar way. And um, like it seems that like here is oh you're talking here's Carlos talking, and we're and we're not in the person, we're talking digitally, so I'm actually talking to the screen here, but
Right.
anyhow at the end of the day we are we all have emotions. If I have emotions, it means most probably you also have, and we have to take that into account. That comes
Right.
again back down to the emotional intelligence between everyone, and that's a task we as a society need to work on and definitely improve, because that's on what also the welfare of society in a sense, or well-being, depends on.
Yeah. I never thought about it this way. Another question. It's kind of related to this previous one, as in like what has been the most challenging part of your, I guess, like a startup coach journey. So what has been like the most difficult lesson that you had to learn? And I'll give you an example from my side. I just thought about this while you were talking about the feedback and all that. For me, because at some point I was also a consultant for startups, and I think for me the most challenging, or the most difficult lesson that I had to learn is that not everybody is going to listen to me, regardless of all of my credentials. Early on in my career, I used to believe that, oh, people don't want to listen to me just because now I have, like, I don't know, 5 years of experience and not 10.
Mhm.
And then fast forward 5 years later, I had 10 years of experience, and still not everybody wanted to listen to me. And I finally accepted that it's okay. I'm like, not everybody wants to listen to me, and that's okay. Like, I just had to let it go. But the time it took me to come to this conclusion, which was actually really good for my mental health, it took me a long time to learn that lesson.
That's a good one, and I think you're not special there. I think it again comes down to
Oh,
all
that's
of
another
us.
good lesson. That's another good lesson. It's like you're like not alone with all of this stuff that you're going through.
Like
And a lot of people think the opposite.
like I've been in this one as well, and I think, but that's something. Okay, maybe in the professional domain, it seems like a tragedy. But then when you enter your family space, um, we were just kind of really used to like thinking of our own thing. Like when that's quite common. Like a normal conversation in a family. I speak my part, and perhaps you ask me a question just out of being polite, or just kind of entering conversation, and then you start sharing your thing, and I'm like, maybe there's my own like monkey going in, and I'm thinking about my own things.
Right.
So I think that's how we often communicate, and it's really about developing these faculty of active listening, being present in the conversation, and that's also been my finding, and especially since I'm in no way positioning myself as a consultant or a mentor, though at some point when I started working with organizations, it was more of like a design sprint mentor,
Hmm.
focused
Hmm.
on facilitation. But like, I think people just it's better to ask good questions. I think it's definitely way better way of working.
But it's very difficult to ask good questions. I think that there is, like what you just mentioned, the active listening. For me, it's like phase two, the ability to ask good questions, because it doesn't just come from a decade of experience. It comes from actually listening to the other side. Because
Yeah.
if you're not able to listen, then how are you going to be able to ask good questions?
Of course, that's because a good question is rooted into the content that you share. Not only content, um, facts, opinions, emotions. Also,
Right.
like listening deeply, what's behind those words, or maybe what is it not behind there. So spotting these things and referring them back, and this referral part is where we build strong questions, because we build it out of the context.
Precisely. I've heard this on another podcast that it was something about statistics that most of the, like, they call them super speakers or something like this, like people who like super eloquent and all of that. They actually all started out as like super shy people without like any self confidence. So all they could do was listening.
Yeah.
And because of all this listening that they've done, they actually became super speakers, which for me was like a big revelation, because I was like, oh, I thought they were always like this, like so, like, this kind of like TED style speakers and all that. And when I heard this stat, that was like mind blowing for me.
Um, didn't know. Like it's yeah, it seems strange. Like when you've been shyly been only listening and you become a speaker. I think that's definitely a significant part, but I would say that like the message that you have to deliver also matters. Like but when I have an important message to deliver, I'm more prompt to also become a better speaker. I think like there are, I think, probably many factors that impact that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course, it does not negate the fact that they had a
Yeah.
lot of practice too. It's not like they were just listening and then all of a sudden they're like super,
Yeah.
super delivery style and all that. But I thought it was very interesting about the listening part, which, excuse me, normally when you see somebody like speak in a very like eloquent way, it like doesn't strike you that this is probably also the person who can ask very good questions.
Yeah, because like yeah, you speak a lot, and then therefore, well, I would say, but I think I think everyone has the key to asking the good questions and has the ability to listen actively. It's also actually about creating that space for that because part of that me filling in those minutes of the podcast or something else is just time for filling up that empty space. So creating trustful space, and also, of course, leading by example. And here I mean not only in the relationship coach or the team, but I mean people to people. Like if I share that, hey, I'm actively listening, referring back to your story, and providing the space so you can feel more open to do the same because you see, oh wow, I feel listened to, and I think that's
Right.
one of the best feelings, and that's something why we are looking out for communities. Referring to what we were talking about before, we need to
Mm-hmm.
be understood and heard out. So that's an important thing.
I agree. Well, I think this has been a very insightful episode. What I always do at the end of each episode is giving a small amount of homework. Because what I've realized is that most of the time, once we listen to something that seems to be, inspirational, insightful, blah, 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 we tend to forget about it like 5 minutes later. Boom, it leaves your head, unless you're giving some specific action item at the end. That makes you, because like, now you're going into like active part of something. So it's not just passive listening. So, out of everything that we talked about, I think there are two things that come to my mind. Obviously, feel free to add it or add another one. So, one thing that you said about talents, basically, what are your talents and how can you self actualize through your talents? I would give this as one of the piece of the homework. Like just really think about what that is for you and how you can come to self-fulfillment. I guess there are a lot of phrases.
Yeah.
And then the second one is what I found very beautiful, and I'm going to practice it myself, is finding inspiration in everyone that you speak with, because it doesn't, like, your role models don't have to be some big public figures or somebody who's really made it, quote unquote, right? You can find it in just like people that you talk to every day.
Good. I think those are good things. What are my talents that through which I can self actualize, and yeah, what is the inspiration I can take from the person next to me or on the other side of the screen. I would probably add the third one. Next time you or myself in a conversation, try to listen actively and observe what are the or listen to what are the uh, opinions, facts, and emotions that you observe in this, and then try to refer this back to the person if you have heard correctly. So that might be a nice exercise to practice active listening. And
Yeah, that's a really good one. I would even add like a small tip from me. What really helped me to listen actively was the fact that I had to tell myself it's okay to take a pause. Like, I don't have to reply immediately the second the other person stops talking, which I think has been maybe like low self-confidence thing for me, because I just felt like if I don't start speaking immediately, somebody else will do it. So I had to like jump in. And because of that, I wasn't listening. I was already preparing what I'm
Yeah.
going to say myself. So I could just like jump right in. And I'm like, it's okay to take a pause. Like, I don't have to immediately have an answer or a comment. So that has been like instrumental for me.
Oh, nice, Adam. Because like this last exercise that the third one that I shared and upon which you commented, that's
Mm-hmm.
something I took from. I'm currently also undergoing mediation training on
Okay.
conflict resolution, and there we had like this nice exercise where we were asked to do what I just shared, and also we were
Is
asked
that how
not to
the
think
you
of any response or any questions how I'm going to respond to that. Only after you have finished talking am I allowed to think of a response or so.
the exercise that you gave, is that how you like de-escalate something? Because I feel like I definitely read it in that most famous negotiation book. I can't remember what it's
Getting to
called.
yes.
Yes, that's the
Yes.
FBI version. I think that's one of the methods on it too, right? You just gotta say something where the person replies yes.
Yeah. Like that's an approach how you can undercover the real interest behind my position, like conflict. If my current understanding that conflict resolution or dispute resolution, to be more precise, is about understanding what is behind the positions we are taking and how we can find creative ways for solving those interests. Because my position might be I want to quit the program. And your position is no, you can't quit the program or the conversation
Hmm.
because we haven't yet finished. And then I can share what is the reason behind there. But so often we just stick with the position. I'm quitting. No, you're not. Uh, and
Okay.
uh, and and through this also active listening and referring back. Um, and that comes also like there comes in the role of the mediator, because the mediator is the one that's listening, referring back, so that like the mediator kind of serves as a mirror for the both parties that are in the conflict.
Okay, I see.
But kind of still, it doesn't like just getting back to the exercise. I think it like this mediator role doesn't matter. It's really about that by listening actively and not thinking, as you mentioned, not thinking of response and giving yourself a break. Just actively listening and noting the key facts, opinions, emotions that I hear or observe will be an interesting experiment in the next
That
conversation.
is true. I feel like we could do another episode just on that.
Definitely, I think like I'm currently undergoing the training, so that's going to be my hopefully my other angle of my professional life. We'll see. So then we can in a year time do another episode.
All right. Thanks so much, Carlos. It's been, first of all, a pleasure to see you again. And thank you for all the insights that you've shared with us today.
Oh, thank you very much for inviting me here. It was really a pleasure, and yeah, I hope there's going to be something that each listener can take away, because this was also a nice experience for me to reflect through the questions you asked me and to structure some things for myself as well. So, yeah, the things that I shared also actually I share for myself. So yeah.
That's awesome. Well, that makes me feel validated as well for with this podcast. Thanks so much again. And well, hopefully we'll see you on a follow-up episode.